mHealth solutions and change and adoption. We hope this will be critical in terms of finalizing what will be our roadmap for mobile health devices and applications for the next 30 years with significant technical inputs coming in from other countries who have also developed their own mHealth roadmaps. In the short term, we aim to mainstream and streamline mobile health or mHealth by developing and adopting faster and simpler methods, standardizing mHealth apps and services. In the medium term, by the end of 15 years, we hope to be able to look into institutionalizing regulation and quality assurance and having sustained fundings for mobile health applications, implementing and enhancing standards, and operating certification processes. And then finally, 30 years, we hope that there will be a sustainable plan for health information sharing through mHealth services and incorporation of mobile health as part of the basic formal education, especially for healthcare professionals, and mandating the use of mHealth services that will be critical in improving healthcare service and delivery and continued development of standards. We hope that that's something that we could push forward in terms of being able to lead and incentivize having an mHealth governance group to enable effective coordination and oversight, collaboration, and finally on capacity building, which are all aspects that the government should focus on. Thank you so much, and I look forward to your questions.
Thank you, Dr. Sarmiento. Our next speaker is a professor at the College of Medicine, University of the Philippines, Manila. Her expertise is on community medicine and health policy. Let us hear it from Dr. Portia Grace H. Fernandez Marcelo.
Good morning, everybody. I'm here to present a strategic roadmap for telehealth in universal healthcare. This is a policy paper in order to set the context why more investments in telehealth is actually needed to realize the universal healthcare vision. Since 2004, the UP Manila received grants in telehealth R&D, and we deployed innovative telehealth technologies across the country. One of them is the RxBox telemedicine device, which we deployed as far up in north in Batanes, then down in the south in Tawi-Tawi. Here, we linked health workers in rural health units who were supported by our medical specialists at the PGH, and later on, medical specialists at the DOH regional hospitals. Lessons from all of these research contributed in part to the organization of the National eHealth Steering Committee, which developed policies on digital health in support of health and national development. By 2019, the Universal Healthcare Law was actually enacted, and with principles of universality, equity, it envisioned province-wide and city-wide health systems across the archipelago with integrated health information systems and telehealth linking all the facilities therein. Thus, it promises that every Juan and Juana will actually have access to healthcare whenever and wherever they need it. And really, in our research in telehealth, we actually demonstrated that this can happen. But the real situation is not all patients can actually navigate the complexities of the health system. That's why this research was actually made in preparation to the full implementation of the Universal Healthcare Law. This paper is actually meant to define telehealth models in the universal healthcare system and the roadmap for its implementation. So we proposed 3 models of telehealth services, and this is enhanced or inspired by the Canadian experience. The first one is directed towards improving public health, the public and the patient's health literacy. Other telehealth services are meant for professional development, and then telemedicine services are for direct patient care. Arkwright and others are actually modeling 8 business forms. And 3 of this, the first 3, are meant to support health professionals. So the clinician-to-clinician model is actually how the University of the Philippines developed its telemedicine services in the past decades. However, telemedicine services for the future can be direct to patient. It can even be organization to organization and even country to country. We are a country of OFWs, and therefore we can and we should be supporting our OFWs abroad. And since we are relying on digital health technologies, the industry can actually support equipment, software, robots, in order to provide services. And herein lies where our emerging digital health community can support. When the COVID pandemic actually came to be, there was a surge in the use of telemedicine. And local governments like PICC and the DOH put up telehealth services. And the DOH, in fact, engaged the private sector to support this endeavor. Canada has been providing telehealth services in the last, since the 1970s in order to support their indigenous peoples. These are the First Nations. But when the COVID pandemic actually hit, the telemedicine industry even grew further. The slide actually shows you that the range of economic and health systems benefit, which range from 147 million to 5 billion yearly in Canadian dollars, the economic value of time saved because of widespread implementation of telemedicine. Thus, imagine Canada with 38 million and the Philippines with 110 million Filipinos. And in each of these province-wide or city-wide health systems, in 81 provinces and 147 cities, they would need an integrated health information system and telehealth services. So that's the opportunity for this emerging digital health community to support local government units in this endeavor. Thus, we proposed incremental implementation, first beginning with 10 sandboxes, then incrementally expanding so that we can cover all regions in the country. So telehealth is really a step in support of universal healthcare. And as we say, sumama na kayo dahil ang kalusugan para sa lahat ay isang mahabang proseso at kailangan na ng ating pagkilos ngayon din. Maraming salamat po.
Thank you, Dr. Marcelo. Our next speaker has 30 years of experience as rehabilitation medicine practitioner. Partner for 28 years, she has taught medical and allied health undergraduates in government and private institutions and trained residents and fellows for specialization in the field of rehabilitation medicine at the UP Philippine General Hospital.
She has also been rendering community-based rehabilitation training and services for the past 15 years from Batanes to Tawi-Tawi. And she believes that people, not by their own choice, can improve capabilities of people with lesser abilities if society provides them equal opportunities. Let us all welcome Dr. Josephine Bundok.
Want to hear some exciting news? Do you know that the power of mobility can be restored in you and your loved ones who are amputees or have body weakness and paralysis through this biomedical device unit that enhances access to prosthesis or artificial limbs and orthosis or braces? How is this possible? Discover by listening to this video on the story behind power. I'm Dr. Josephine Robredo Bundok. I'm the head of the Prosthetics and Orthotics Clinic of the Department of Rehabilitation Medicine, UER Memorial Medical Center. Lagi akong tinatanong, bakit ang naging passion mo is persons with disabilities? It has always been a question in my mind also. Around the globe,
it is estimated that over 1 billion people live with some form of disability. In the Philippines, around 12% of all Filipinos ages 15 and above experience severe disability. Meanwhile, around 47% or 1 in every 2 Filipinos experience moderate disability.
Ginamit nyo na siya, mababalance nyo na yung sarili nyo.
Assistive technologies are important interventions that can aid people with disabilities achieve greater mobility and independence. Assistive technologies such as prostheses, orthoses, and wheelchairs help improve quality of life by maintaining or improving a person's functional capabilities. However, only 5 to 15% of people who need assistive devices have access in low and middle income countries. Around the Philippines, there are less than 20 hospitals with the capacity to fabricate prosthetic and orthotic devices. Most are located in urban centers, making it difficult for those who need to travel several hours from various provinces.
Power solves the problem of limited access and lack of facilities. Power is a prosthesis and orthosis workshop in a van that delivers the products at the community level. It eliminates the need for the disabled to travel to health facilities. It also decreases delivery and fabrication time by as much as 2 weeks. Prosthesis and orthosis users answer a fit and comfort questionnaire while technical experts examine device strength and durability. This PCHRD study revealed safe and functional mobility with a device that is of low cost but high technology, prosthesis and orthosis, and was rated by its users as of good satisfaction in the user satisfaction survey. It has restored mobility in the disabled Filipinos at the marginalized areas of the country. As you can see in this video, they are walking with 1 artificial leg or even 2 artificial legs. So it has provided safety, mobility, low cost, high technology, and very good user satisfaction. Therefore, it is not surprising that we already have a Power Van 2 in Zamboanga, and this is now awaiting PhilHealth contracting in cooperation with the local health facility. So right now, we are very confident that the key outputs of power can be achieved. One is development to commercialization. Second is universal healthcare integration, where all local government units from primary to tertiary shall be able to deliver the service at all levels of care. With PhilHealth as partner, all these devices will be paid for from childhood to elderly because PhilHealth has zip packages that reimburses all of these devices. Power, therefore, did not only increase access, but also awareness to assistive technology. This prosthesis orthosis workshop in a van shall enable all Filipinos of whatever age, wherever they may be, they shall possess the power of mobility, which is a very, very important and crucial step towards inclusion, where no one should be left behind. We would like to thank our collaborating partners in this study, and we do look forward to you as our future enablers for power of Filipinos with this ability. Thank you and have a good day.
Thank you,
Dr. Bundok. Yes, thank you po. Napakarami, grabe partner.
Yes.
Napakarami na nating natunghaya mga research development endeavors from our presenters today.
Opo. Oh, ilan lang yan mga kaibigan. Actually, morning session pa lang yung napakinggan natin kasi later on, afternoon, mas marami pa tayong matututunan, mas marami pa rin presentation tayong maririnig at syempre in-invite din natin yung ating mga kasama via Facebook, YouTube, and Zoom. Ayan. Parami ng parami actually yung ating mga participants sa ating NRDC.
Yes, and speaking of participants, we would like to acknowledge those in attendance today via online platforms. Meron po tayong 600 plus participants via Zoom. Meron po tayo via Facebook Live na 300 plus ng mga participants now watching us sa Facebook po. And in YouTube, 250 packs po ang nanonood via YouTube.
Wow, nakakatuwa naman. Siyempre, lahat po tayo ay makikinabang naman sa mga pinapresent sa atin ng ating mga kasama ngayon, ng mga expert. At alam natin, napakalaki ng kapakinabangan sa ating mga kapwa Pilipino. At syempre, bukod doon sa ating mga nabanggit kanina mga partners, siguro batiin na rin natin yung ating ibang mga katuwang sa pagkakataong ito. Ang Catanduanes State University, Bukidnon State University, kasama rin natin ang National Nutrition Council Region 8, Camarines Sur Polytechnic Colleges, Nabua.
We have CSU Tuguegarao City and Baguio City Health Services Office, the Cagayan State University Andrews Campus, Tuguegarao City, pamantasan ng lungsod ng Maynila at napakarami pa pong iba.
Andyan din po ang Cotabato Foundation College of Science and Technology at marami pang iba.
Yes naman, partner. Of course, we are joined by these distinguished guests because napaka-interesting ng mga bagong innovations natin, especially on R&D projects in health.
Alright, so moving on to our next speaker, is a science research specialist to the life stage nutrition section of the Nutrition and Food Research and Development Division at the DOST Food and Nutrition Research Institute.
So please welcome on stage Miss Hazel Lat.
It's a common adage to hear during a 60th birthday party. Congratulations on your dual citizenship. You'll retire soon and enjoy life at your own pace. Before I start, I want to direct you to these photos. Who are they? I'm sure many of us here remembers our grandparents one way or another. About the stories they tell and how they feel while they are reaching their old age. As a country, the Philippines is beginning to age. By the year 2035 to 2030, the Philippines will be considered an aging society. According to the recent expanded National Nutrition Survey conducted by DOST FNRI, there is a steady prevalence in the overweight and obesity as well as underweight in the Philippines, especially for Filipinos 60 years and older. In another study conducted by Orense et al. In 2018, it was found that 70% of senior citizens in Metro Manila are at risk of malnutrition. Indeed, it is a challenge for us to maintain and sustain optimal health in later life due to the physiologic changes our body experiences through time. Nutrition efforts was not really directed towards the older group in the past decade. No population group should be left behind. There are several interconnected factors that contributes to healthy aging. Healthy aging is defined as having optimal reserve and resilience to handle environmental stress, thereby having not only a lower risk of aging-related diseases, but also optimal cognitive and physical functioning. Nutrition is one of the major determinants of successful aging, and it contributes to the overall quality of life. With the recent United Nations declaration of the year 2021 to 2030 as the decade of healthy aging, there is no more better opportunity to focus on healthy aging than today. And we want to expand our networks through meaningful collaborations with various institutes and organizations. With the above-mentioned research gap and public health challenges posed by aging, DOST FNRI initiated Happy Senior Citizens, an intensive na transcending fashion, from molecular to individual to community perspective, to determine the interrelationship of diet, functional status, health, and quality of life while accounting for the role of aging. For the field component, a cross-sectional study was done wherein 150 to 200 senior citizens per city was recruited. A comprehensive database will be generated containing different variables such as biochemical, body composition, functional status, quality of life, geriatric assessment, dietary intake, and nutritional status. Meanwhile, for the laboratory-based component, a nutrition physiology laboratory will be launched where energy costs of selected occupational and physical activities will be measured. The Nutrition Physiology Laboratory of the Department of Science and Technology, Food and Nutrition Research Institute is one of the outputs of the DOST Grants in AIDS funded program titled Healthy Aging Program for Pinoy Senior Citizens, or HAPPY Senior Citizens. The hallmark of the new laboratory is the focus on the synergy of the 4 key components of human nutrition, namely metabolism, physical activity, body composition, and nutrition. So there should be a video clip that shows the highlights of our data collection from Tarlac, Tacloban, and Davao City. So the next time you attend a 60th birthday or celebrate retirement, let us ponder on our health and nutrition needs so we can enjoy life and enjoy our time and add life to years. Remember, the role of our senior citizens is as valuable as any. Be an agent of change. Let's connect and contribute towards the healthy aging in our country, one step at a time. Thank you and good morning.
Thank you, Ms. Lat. Next, we have a molecular microbiologist who studies bacteriophages and the viral resistance and the vast biosynthetic potentials of bacteria. He earned both his undergraduate degree in molecular biotechnology with first-class honors and a doctoral degree in microbiology from the University of Otago, New Zealand.
In 2017, he joined the National Institute of Molecular Biology and Biotechnology at the University of the Philippines, Diliman, where he now heads the Synthetic Microbiology Laboratory. Join me in welcoming
Dr. Ron Yonardi.
Okay, good morning to everyone. So in the early days of the 2020, So in early 2020, we saw the world stop before our eyes. Airports were shut, streets were empty, hospitals were in full capacity. We witnessed the birth of a pandemic. An unknown disease was spreading across the entire world. We had no cure to treat the disease, no vaccines to make people immune, and no tests to detect if one was infected. Everyone, wherever you are in the world, we were all in the same boat. So as prominent scientists raced to identify the molecular agent of this infectious disease, they immediately identified that it was a novel coronavirus. While we waited for a treatment or a vaccine to be developed, it was immediately evident that for us to stop the spread of this disease, reliable detection was key. The World Health Organization released a white paper describing how RT-PCR is the best method to be able to detect afflicted patients with COVID-19. And as we adopted this technique in our country early on, we realized that we had very limited capacity and resources to be able to adapt this effectively to cover the entire population. First, we only had very limited RT-PCR machines available in the country, and it was very expensive to acquire. Second, we only had very few people who were knowledgeable or able to handle this equipment. Finally, with very limited testing capacities, backlogs are inevitable, which cause major delays in testing capacities of our entire population. So, with the pandemic with the current pandemic, are we able to develop a platform that is sensitive and also easily adaptable to our foreseeable pandemic in the futures? More importantly, are we able to develop a platform that have sensitivities like RT-PCR and have benefits like rapid antigen test kits so that we could easily get results and have point-of-care diagnostics? Introducing the Crispr diagnostics platform. And in this platform, we use Cas enzymes that functions as molecular scissors, and we program them using RNA to be able to detect sequences that are specific to our desired target. So in this platform, we program Cas enzymes, and once it is able to detect a target, it is activated to cleave a supplemented reporter in a reaction tube. So, for example, if a sample has a target, this programmed Cas enzyme can detect and sense this target, and the reporter is cleaved and it emits a signal such as light. So in this particular platform, we were able to pitch this idea to develop a CRISPR-based diagnostics platform to detect SARS-CoV-2 and TB from DOST PCHRD, and they were happily able to support us in this endeavor. So in our project, in our efforts, we were able to program Cas12, the molecular scissors of choice, and we were able to program it to sensitively detect a gene in SARS-CoV-2 genome. So here on the right-hand side of the figure, using fluorescence as a readout, we were able to engineer Cas12 to sensitively detect and rapidly detect this SARS-CoV-2 gene in a matter of 15 to 60 minutes. To showcase the whole adaptability of our program, we also re-engineered this Cas12 to also detect another pathogen relevant to the Philippines, which is tuberculosis. Just by engineering this Cas12 enzyme with reprogrammability of RNA, it was able to detect a specific gene in the Mycobacterium tuberculosis genome. Finally, as we scale up and implement CRISPR diagnostics, it is actually rather simple. So aside from the RNA reagents and also the enzymes, you only need very simple equipment such as thermal blockers and pipettes. So when scaling it up, it is actually very simple to implement when facing a pandemic. Also, you could easily adapt the CRISPR diagnostics in a lateral flow strip format, so we could actually have RT-PCR-like sensitivities, but in a very rapid format, such as those available, such as those that you could actually see in antigen test kits readouts. So overall, with our development of the CRISPR diagnostics platform, not only are we able to provide an alternative to the SARS-CoV-2 and TB detection, but more importantly, we are actually able to provide build a capacity that could actually provide us a national capacity for pandemic resilience. And through these efforts, we are now able to have a platform that could quickly be adapted to detect infectious diseases in the foreseeable future. Thank you very much.
Thank
Thank you, Dr.
you
G.
po. Our next presenter is the Manufacturing Division Head at the Manila Health Tech Incorporated. His field of expertise is on microbiology and molecular biology, focusing on molecular diagnostics of infectious diseases. Please welcome on stage Mr. Julius A. Mejia.
One death is too many. The COVID-19 pandemic has caused a global burden in various sectors, such as in the economy and healthcare system. As of September 5, 2022, there have been more than 600 million recorded cases and more than 6.4 million deaths worldwide. Here in the Philippines, more than 3.8 million cases and at least 62,000 deaths have been recorded. Next slide. Next slide. All of these may have been prevented if a scheme for early case detection has been in place during the early onset to promptly isolate confirmed cases and provide proper clinical management and prevent the further spread of the disease. Our Filipino scientists did not bat an eye to design a platform for early case detection. As early as February 2020, a PCR-based detection kit was developed to detect SARS-CoV-2 in human clinical samples. Now we have the first and the first and only locally developed and manufactured COVID-19 detection kit in the Philippines, which is PCR-based, the Gen-Amplify COVID-19 RRT-PCR detection kit. The kit detects two viral targets of SARS-CoV-2, the RDRP and E genes, and it also incorporates an internal amplification control to validate the sample extraction procedure. With the technology to combat an emerging infectious disease, the study aimed to evaluate its performance in the field. A more recent evaluation of the Research Institute for Tropical Medicine shows that the kit provides a 93.33% sensitivity and 100% specificity. The sensitivity is the probability that a test result will be positive when the disease is present, and the specificity is the probability that the test result will be negative if the disease is absent. An advantage of local innovation is that continuous improvement is within reach to suit the needs of the present situation. Hence, we are able to improve the performance of the technology. Other institutions have also evaluated the performance of the kit, and the results are in par with the results of the RITM. And another advantage of locally developed technologies is how it can be offered at a much lower cost compared to other foreign brands through direct technology adoption of end users, while performing the same quality with the foreign brands. Several hospitals and laboratories around the country have been identified to be given reagents and consumables for COVID-19 testing. The list has been expanded to cover more areas, particularly those who have been assessed and qualified to conduct COVID-19 testing. And these are the sites that we have reached during the study. Next slide. Aside from the technology transfer itself, we were also able to perform knowledge transfer as we were able to provide the necessary trainings in basic biosafety, sample processing, and technology utilization. Next slide. In this experience, we stressed the need for accurate and efficient technologies to combat infectious diseases and prevent future pandemics. Next slide. And of course, that our local community, in the scientific community, can become champions in progress in the country through science and technology. While this study has promising results, there is a further need to strengthen mechanisms for a more rapid diagnostic development pathway through the promotion of a more sustainable manufacturing of raw materials, suitable regulatory mechanisms, and the public trust in locally developed and manufactured products. With the blueprint of this study, we aim to further expand our capacity in molecular diagnostics here in the country. For questions and collaborations, you may reach us through these channels, and thank you very much and good morning.
Thank you, Mr. Mejia.
Our next speaker is the current director of the Institute of Herbal Medicine, National Institutes of Health, University of the Philippines, Manila.
She is a professor and the assistant chair for research at the Department of Pharmacology and Toxicology. Her postgraduate degrees include a Master of Science in Clinical Trials and Master of Science in Infectious Diseases, both from the London School of Hygiene and Tropical Medicine, University of London. Let us all welcome Dr. Cecilia Maramba-Lazarte.
Good morning. I am Dr. Cecil Maramba-Lazarte, the Director of the Institute of Herbal Medicine, and I have some good news which will be helpful to all of you. Imagine yourself feeling woozy, unwell, your throat is scratchy, your nose is congested, and you have a cough. Later in the day, you feel chilly. You take your temperature, and it is 38.5 degrees centigrade. Oh no, do you have the flu? COVID? You take an antigen test for COVID and it turns out positive. Luckily, you have only mild COVID. But what are your options? There have been research on many drugs which they thought would be helpful, but clinical trials showed that hydroxychloroquine, lopinavir, ritonavir, and ivermectin all did not show any benefit. Some treatments that have been proven to be useful are usually imported, expensive, should be given through the veins, or are not easily accessible. What should you do? Good news, we have an affordable treatment which will make you feel better. Have you heard of Lagundi? This has been around since 1994 as a registered herbal medicine whose indication is cough and asthma. When you say it is an herbal medicine, this means that research has been done in humans to prove it is safe and effective. What gave us the idea to test Lagundi for patients with COVID-19? There were 3 in silico studies which showed compounds in Lagundi could potentially inhibit 3 drug targets of COVID-19. Lagundi compounds have also been isolated, which may decrease inflammation, decrease pain, open up the lung air passages, decrease frequency of cough, and lower body temperature from fever, all of which would be helpful for the symptoms of COVID. To put this to the test, we performed a randomized, double-blind, placebo-controlled clinical trial. In other words, those involved in the trial had an equal chance of getting Lagundi or placebo. Also, both the patient and doctors did not know which treatment that were given. This removes the bias in reporting results. And the placebo looks exactly like the Lagundi counterpart, except there is no active ingredient in it. Our team was able to enroll 200 patients with confirmed mild COVID in the efficacy trial in 7 quarantine centers in Metro Manila. Basic laboratories were done and were followed up every 3 to 4 days for 20 days. They were examined and interviewed for the effect on their symptoms and if there were any adverse effects. So what benefits did we see? The symptom scores of those on the Lagundi tablet showed that they were relieved of the symptoms faster than placebo, especially for anosmia or lack of smell, and the overall symptom score. Other symptoms like lack of taste, weakness, cough, and sore throat showed better improvement for the Lagundi side. Also, Lagundi was very safe. No severe events were reported, but there were a few reports of diarrhea and itchiness, but this was equally distributed between the Lagundi and placebo groups. With these findings, we applied for a utility model patent application. And since the news of these findings, there has been a growing demand for Lagundi tablet and syrup. Sales have increased, especially during surges. Lagundi tablet and syrup has now been included in the home care kit in Quezon City and also in PhilHealth. Requests for export to ASEAN countries and the US are now in the works. A friend messaged me that his construction workers and their families who live in a compound in Caloocan were getting sick of COVID. His son suggested that they take Lagundi. Around 50 people in the compound took Lagundi. Some were kids and they all got well. The workers were so happy. So we have investigated and proven that Lagundi is safe and effective in treating the symptoms of mild COVID-19. I am Dr. Cecil Marama Lazarte, and these are my contact details. If you have any queries or suggestions, we would be happy to entertain it. Have a good day.
Thank you, Dr. Lazarte. Alright, thank you again to our presenters, and that ends the presentation in the health sector. Grabe partner, what a
Yes.
powerhouse!
Ang sarap marinig yung kanilang mga ipinresent sa atin, di ba, Mike?
Exactly, and we're amazed, grabe partner, not only by their brilliance and greatness, but because of the because of the greatness present with us today, but even more, partner,
Yes.
the heart, di ba? Sabi nga
Yun.
ng ating secretary, kailangan may puso kapag
Correct.
nasa DOST.
Importante yan eh, di ba? Sabi nga kapag ka naisa sa puso mo yung ginagawa mo, mas nagiging productive ka, and at the same time, yung mga kaalaman mo di ba, nasi-share mo sa mas marami na alam mo, mas magiging kapaki-pakinabang para sa ating lahat.
Exactly. They have the heart for community and service that was imparted in today's first session. Diba? Truly enriching and inspiring presentations and R&D innovations and interventions,
Correct.
partner.
And I am sure you would like to know more about the programs or projects that you have heard. So may we invite on stage, isa-isahin po natin lahat ng ating mga presenters sa umagang ito. Dr. Raul V. Destura,
Dr. Doralines Dalisay,
Mr. Joseph Marie B. Kerikensha,
Dr. Marion P. De Leon,
Dr. Beatriz J. Tiangco,
Dr. Dennis B. Batangan,
Dr. Portia Grace H. Hernandez Marcelo,
Dr. Josephine R. Bundok,
Miss Hazel Tolentino Lat,
Dr. Ron Leonard V.D.,
Mr. Julius Aaron Mejia,
and Dr. Cecilia C. Lazarte.
and may we also invite Dr. Shirley Agrupis
Dr. Raymond Francis R. Sarmiento,
and Dr. Michael Velarde to join us online via Zoom for the question and answer segment.
yes, and let us also welcome on stage the Executive Director of the Philippine Health Research and Development, Dr. Jaime C. Montoya, who will serve as our moderator in the Q&A session.
And for our live audience, if you have questions for our speakers, please proceed to any mic stand nearest you. Our ushers will assist you. And if you are online, you may type in your questions at the Zoom chat box, Facebook, or YouTube comment section.
Yeah, so partner, wag na natin patagalin pa. Let's give the floor to our moderator, Executive Director, Mr. Jaime C. Montoya.
Good morning. Magandang umaga sa inyong lahat, sa mga nanonood now sa live at sa ating social media platform at sa Zoom. I'm sure you will agree with me that this is really a powerhouse, powerhouse panel. And I cannot imagine what questions we will ask because, in the interest of time, we also don't have the luxury of time. But I do have a lot of questions, and you will also have a lot of questions. So I would like to start immediately because I'm sure there are a lot of interesting points that they can share with us. So I'll start not in the order of importance, but I'll start with Dr. Penny Bundok. Very interesting presentation. I'd like to ask you, such an important program, how do you plan to sustain this and make sure that it really goes from north to south to all of our disabled Filipino patients?
Yes, hello. Thank you, Dr. Jimmy Montoya. When this was actually brought forth as an idea, the return of investment was very important because it's always important that sustainability would be in place. So it actually always starts with a public-private partnership wherein Physicians for Peace will bring in the training, the equipment, and the tools needed and would assist the health facility in terms of a startup. And thus, when this partnership starts, we already first set up a meeting between the health facility medical director, the regional director of the Department of Health, the regional director of the SWD, and the regional director also of PhilHealth. So it will be a roundtable discussion talking about the various phases of the project so that indeed it will be sustainable.
So please take note for all of our researchers what is going to be done by Dr. Penny because I think this will all apply to all of us. The next question I'd like to give is for Dr. Tiangco, Beatriz Tiangco. your studies also have very big implications as far as treatment, cancer being a leading cause of morbidity, mortality in the country. How do you plan to implement this, particularly in the hospitals and all in the treatment centers where cancer patients are being seen?
Salamat, Jimmy. Yung aming program or research has to do with early cancer detection. And we are trying to find out for Filipinos what are the biomarkers that will let our doctors diagnose the disease early on. And once we find out, based on our data, we're creating an algorithm, we're creating an app that is a scoring system. So far, in other countries, it looks like it's gender, age, alpha-fetoprotein, PIVCA. Itong mga tests na to, tinest din natin sa ating mga kababayan. And may konting kaibahan. So pagka nakita natin kung ano yung mga biomarkers that are most significant for the Filipino population, those with hepatitis, whom among them have biomarkers that led us to suspect that they will develop liver cancer, sila yung babantayan natin. At tuturuan natin yung ating mga doctors na nagbabantay, mga gastroenterologists, liver specialists, to be wary and to be aware that these are the markers that they should monitor. And then pagka may ganung markers ang mga pasyente, sila yung talagang babantayan very closely. So more of diagnostics muna bago therapeutics.
So we're truly excited with this project and really hope that more Filipinos can benefit from this. I'd like now to ask Dr. Dalisay, Doralyn Dalisay. Very interesting presentation, and now the next question, of course, what next will you do? I mean, you have this wonderful product. What are your plans in order to make sure that this really goes to the broad market and more Filipinos can benefit from this technology?
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Dr. Montoya, for that question. So, regarding the product that we formulated together with our industry partner, Maridan Industries Incorporated, we are projecting that the product will be out in the market as a cosmetic product by Q2 of next year. So we're waiting for the biocompatibility testing and stability testing as well as animal studies. So however, we are going to continue doing some clinical testings or trials so that we could apply for a drug no longer as a cosmetic but a drug for FDA approval so that every Filipino can be able to access that. Thank you.
I really hope that the regulatory body, the FDA, would be able to facilitate the registration of this technology so that Filipinos can benefit. So I hope that our regulatory agency, the FDA, can facilitate the registration so that it can easily broaden its access. Most Filipinos can benefit from this. Thank you very much. Now I go to Dr. Shirley Agrupis, who I know is actually on Zoom. Dr. Shirley Agrupis. So I'd like to, okay. So I hope she's will be available later if we have the time to ask her the question. Now I would like to ask Ms. Joy Ann Santos. Sorry, Dr. Mejia. Sorry, Mejia. I'd like to ask what other strategies do you plan to do? Because you're doing the field implementation study. What plans do you have in mind in order to again ensure that this is actually made available to hospitals, clinics, and Filipino patients?
Yes, thank you, Dr. Montoya, for the question. So, I would like to again acknowledge Dr. Destura as our lead scientist in this project in Manila Health Tech. So, aside from establishing the gold standard for COVID testing in this case, our way forward is to produce more technologies based on this R&D blueprint, which uses a more or a less sophisticated platform, thereby reducing the cost of materials, acquisition, and other operations costs. Basically reducing the overall cost and reaching the more communities, especially in the off-grid areas, thereby enhancing the accessibility of such technologies. Because we believe in Manila Health Tech that early intervention can really lead to better outcomes.
Thank you, Julius, for your response. Maybe, Dr. Raul, I know you're very much in demand, especially during the early stages of the pandemic. Would you like to add to what was mentioned and what your plans are for
As the
Manila Health
cases
Tech?
of the coronavirus is slowly going down, we might, at some point in time, transition to endemic suspicion rather than epidemic suspicion of cases. The coronavirus is now shifting to flurona, which is a combination of COVID and influenza viruses in one run. Kasi nagdidikit na yung mga differentials because the cases are going down, and it's difficult not to decide is this influenza or COVID. So it's a single multiplex platform, and we're finished with the influenza A, and then we are completing the influenza B panel, and that's the way forward. We recently partnered with the biotech industry in Malaysia to transform all our diagnostic platforms to printable chips that will cost us at least 30 pesos a test. Hopefully that relationship with the two biotech companies by two countries, thanks to the PICC 2022 of the UST for connecting us. So we just signed a joint venture agreement a few days ago. Yeah.
So we wish you all the best, because I think the company especially pioneered diagnostics here, especially for COVID-19, really showcases the ingenuity of Filipinos and how good we are as far as R&D is concerned. So let me now go to nutrition of the aging population. Very interesting presentation. May I know what are the policy implications of this, and how do you plan to influence our, of course, health authorities, our policymakers, with regards to the findings of your study?
Thank you po for the question, Dr. Montoya. So, dun sa possible futures po namin is we want to, since yung findings po namin sa study, we want to help makakraft po sa policies, makatulong sa pag-craft ng policies na appropriate po for our senior citizens, since kukunti po yung policies and programs na talagang nakaukol po sa kanila. And how do we go about this in the future? We want po na yung findings po is through our research, magkaroon po ng mga food products or formulations na para po sa mga senior citizens, yung angkop po talaga for their nutrition needs. And we also want to parang mag-convene po into a forum para po magkaroon ng parang consensus ang iba-ibang institutions, government, academe, and private companies or and NGOs po, para po makakreate po ng iba pang mga products or policies din po for aging population po dito sa Philippines.
Yeah, we agree that, the implications are really tremendous, since the Philippines, whether we like it or not, is really an aging population. As healthcare systems improve, then more people get old and the demand is there. So we really look forward to more researches and policies derived from these researches in the future. So I may now ask Dr. Cecil Maramba Lasarte. Of course, my goodness, Lagundi has set the pace for the herbal industry, and in fact has dominated already the local market. So what more does Lagundi have in mind? You have gone to COVID-19, has been proven to be effective. What else? What more can we see for the future of Lagundi?
Well, we've taken over the Philippines. We can go to Asia and even the United States. We have some works with some of our licensees really want to bring it to the ASEAN nations. So the paperwork is underway, and also to export it to the United States. So hopefully soon, and there has been really a clamor for this, especially from our own kababayans. There are so many there in the United States. We are also looking into other indications for Lagundi, like possibly COPD and other indications. So since there are so many compounds with active ingredients in your Lagundi, there are really a lot of possibilities for other indications.
Wow, that's really impressive, no? Lagundi, lalago pa ang Lagundi, no? Marami pang magagawa ang Lagundi. So thank you very much. So now may I ask Dr. Ronald D. You know, CRISPR has been talked about in almost all scientific fora. In the area of diagnostics, specifically for TB, which you mentioned, and COVID-19, what is your impression on how this will move forward? I mean, what advantages will it provide to the current available platforms that we have?
Thank you for that question, Dr. Montoya. So you understand that CRISPR is a powerful technique. It's a powerful tool that could be applied not just for genome editing, but also now for diagnostics. So with our project with the TB diagnostics, so what we want to address there first is point of care. So we know that with TB, it does take a while for a suspected patient to be diagnosed with TB. A lot of the time, the major bottleneck for that is really because of the culturing of TB, and that's the usual technique that is used in our diagnostics in today's landscape. So what we're trying to address is really using CRISPR diagnostics as a way to be able to do genomic testing at the site for point-of-care diagnostics. So while there are other techniques such as TB LAMP that are already on the landscape of diagnostics in TB, but we're trying to use sort of like specificity in the diagnostic space, which CRISPR can offer. So that's what we're trying to do.
So I think that only means that with all of this technology, especially in diagnostics, it can actually, competition can actually lead to more improvements, enhancements, and of course, more affordability because they have to compete.
Yes.
And I really am confident that the technology can still be used for other.
That's right.
And I hope you can still pursue that in terms
Correct.
of research.
Yep. So that's the good part with CRISPR is that it's sort of like a plug and play. So parang the CRISPR is the hardware, and they will just sort of use RNA to supply the software so that it can detect any other diseases that might be relevant to the Philippines. So that's the powerful nature of CRISPR-Cas technology.
Yeah. Thank you very much. Now we go to a technology that has actually gotten a lot of interest from across the country. And if I ask Dr. Dennis Batangan, you know, the ihatid project, nanganak na, no? It mushroomed already, expanded in terms of its applications. I'd like to know what are your plans as far as making sure that, again, more communities can benefit from this technology, and what enhancements can you actually think about in order to make it more relevant to the needs of the LGUs?
Thank you. Maraming salamat, Dr. Montoya. We appreciate the forums such as this one because this allows us to disseminate more the technology. And last month, we were actually invited by DOST 10 to present in RDC 10 through the RRDIC chaired by USEC Sancho Maborang. And we were given the opportunity to present the work that we're doing to the region. So such opportunities allow us to be able to collaborate more. We are also in partnership now, or about to engage in a partnership with the PHO Association, the Provincial Health Officers Association of the Philippines, to be able to provide or introduce the technology to more provinces. In terms of enhancements, there are a lot of technologies that can actually converge with an interoperable platform. That's what we're working now for universal healthcare, more interoperability because of the technologies that are coming in. In fact, I was talking to Dr. Robredo earlier, and we're already thinking of a pilot convergence in one of the cities in Metro Manila. The other major thing that we are looking into is the Philippine ID system, which actually is it's a requirement for the IT infrastructure and the delivery of services using the e-health services so that's one. We're also looking into convergence with logistics management information system of the health sector, because that's another big area that needs to actually be integrated into a bigger ecosystem.
So it's good you mentioned that you can also converge with our other researchers and other technologies, and the platform that you are using now can actually help expand the reach of these technologies. So we'll be looking forward to that and, adoption of more of this technology by more LGUs, spurred by the adoption of Cagayan de Oro.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you. So now I can ask also Dr. Kirikensha. My question is, very interesting because marang is, I like to eat marang, and I think many Filipinos like to eat marang. They consider it as a delicacy. But looking at it as a functional food or even as medicine is really different. So how do you now plan to proceed from the work that you've already initially done?
Thank you for that question, Dr. Montoya. Actually, my team already had this future paradigm to proceed with pre-formulation studies or as well as techniques and procedures that could select the appropriate dosage form for the sample coming from marang. And aside from that, we also thought of further isolating those active constituents present in the sample.
So I hope you can also be part of, eventually, of the Tuklas Lunas program, no? So that you can also work with our other researchers from other parts of the country that can also help you also have either ideas and further develop the findings that you've actually just presented.
It would be an honor, Doc.
Yes, thank you. So now we go to Dr. De Leon. We usually think of caves as, wow, it's baka makakuha ka ng sakit dyan, no? And of course, among infectious disease people like me and Dr. Destura, it may even be a hazard, no? But it's interesting to know that the excrements, of the bats can be sources of candidates for drugs and compounds that can treat. This is rather unique and unusual, but similar to the initial studies also done by Doralyn, looking at microbes as sources of drugs. How do you plan to make this popular? Consider it's really rather unconventional, looking at guano as a source of drug candidates.
Thank you very much, Dr. Montoya. I believe that it's becoming popular because modesty aside, we have been given the nicer caves, the Center for Cave Ecosystems Research, wherein bat guano is one of the substrates for the isolation of microorganisms. So right now, we have isolated several beneficial microorganisms, not only streptomyces, but also lactic acid bacteria. And we found out that this also, even the E. coli that we isolated from the guano, also produces its own antibiotic against the pathogenic strains of E. coli. So I think this is one way of the bats to really prevent infections from either viruses or bacteria. So talagang merong innate na microorganisms present to produce antibiotics needed for the bats to combat any infection. So we are still popularizing because every time you say bat guano, you're thinking of the poop, the feces of the bats, and you are always correlating guano with infectious agents. But we would like to say that the bat guano is being used as an organic fertilizer. So it's very rich it's very high in nitrogen, phosphorus, and potassium. That's why we think this is beneficial as well.
Yeah. Well, you mentioned that because it's true that now we poop or feces, whatever word you use, is already a potential source of treatment. And in fact, the FDA, I think it's already been approved, the fecal peel, they say.
Yes, the poop peel actually.
Yes,
so
yes.
Perhaps
So,
we can have a bat poop peel.
Yeah, but you don't have to tell people where it came from because,
Sorry.
it might, but right, they're a very rich source of microbes and possible compounds that can be candidates for drug development. I don't know if Dr. Velarde is here. Is Dr. Velarde here? Dr. Velarde, very interesting presentation. You're going to biobanking. Of course, we've funded your study on endocrine disruptors. Just for lay people, I would like for you to say what is the impact of this particular initiative as far as to the common tao? No, paano ba sila makikinabang dito sa inyong ginagawa na research?
Yeah, so if you think about the biobank, siguro bigyan pa lang example yung COVID, no? Kasi yung pinaka-clear sa lahat. In order for you to understand yung strains na existing, you have to have the samples first. So if you don't have those samples banked, you won't be able to know what those COVID samples are. So it's not just COVID, of course, maraming mga diseases that is dependent on the sequences and the samples that you store. For example, cancer, the type of treatment for the cancer. If you have a particular DNA or sequence that you are responsive to a certain chemotherapy, you will know that in your genes, in your DNA. But if you bank your own samples and your own cancer and then have it sequenced, you'll able to know kung what type of treatment would be beneficial for you or not. So it's kind of similar as the power of this bank, that you can store all of these data, this information that may be related even up to the point of the person itself. Of course, you yourself can be impacted, but it could also be analyzed as a whole, that the whole population. What are the type of mutations that we have? And then we go on to looking at exposures. That's what we're interested in. Kasi it's not just in our genes, but it's maybe in the food that we eat, the environment that we're exposed to. Saan kaya nanggagaling itong mga chemicals? Nakita namin that certain plastics are high in Filipinos that are also may suggestions, mga studies, that these chemicals may even prevent or limit your response to chemotherapy. So baka these are very, very relevant to us. But we won't be able to know this unless we have samples that are banked and we know the data associated with those as well.
Thank you very much for that information, Dr. Velarde. I'd like you to tell our audience the importance of information, of data, and of samples, because people maybe don't realize that most of the drugs that were being used now started with samples, biobanks, looking at specimens and patient information. So all of these taken together really are needed to develop all of these drugs that we are looking at for the future. So, for Dr. Portia Marcelo, when I joined the council, one of the technologies that really started the whole interest in e-health is really the RX box.
Yes, sir.
And I know that it's undergone a lot of alterations, improvements, enhancements, and a lot of people really benefit from it, especially the GIDA area. So may just be, just for the information of everyone, what is the stage, the progress of RX box as far as making it accessible to many Filipinos, and enhancements if there are any?
Oh, let me start with that. So the continuous research and development began with first for emergency room, then we deployed it for primary care facilities where it is relevant for mothers, and then now we actually reformatted it or somewhat for COVID. So right now we are integrating and demonstrating how telemetry, meaning at a distance, you can actually see what's happening to the patient, and the RX box is actually a data capture device. So that is ongoing right now. And we were actually, amidst the height of the pandemic, we were doing this in the Department of Obstetrics and Gynecology, which was the initial implementation for rural health units or lying-in birthing facilities nationwide. So those were our successes, actually. So right now, we implemented it mainly in that area, but there is now interest definitely in what do you call that, step-down care as well as ICU, precisely because of the telemetry function that is being led again by Dr. Season, our engineer, as well as another set of researchers. So this is Dr. Harry Hamoy and Dr. Nats Oreliaza. Now, in terms of the technology transfer, there's interest being generated, and our technology transfer office is actually engaging all of these interests and exploring precisely what possible contracts they can put together. Right now, it's still in the stage of toll manufacturing, precisely because it's on R&D, and local government units are actually interested, and hopefully this gets to be ironed out in the next few months, if not sooner rather than later. So we're happy with the growth, and mind you, this was in 2007 when Sir came in. That's the initial iteration, and it's now 2022. So really, it ushered in a lot of lessons actually. So back in the university, the biomedical device research, the collaboration among doctors as well as engineers and computer science experts, and now data science, precisely because these are data capturing devices. So the data around it, not only in terms of biomedical device development, but also moving forward, how predictable are the services going to be expected, with the artificial intelligence and so on. For our engineers, they're talking about machine learning, precisely so that we can develop more tools that are at least comparable to what is existing in the industry, but definitely Filipino-made, so that it's more accessible universally across the Philippines.
Yeah, thank you, Dr. Portia. One thing I learned from the RX box is how adaptable the technology is. It's for GIDA areas, for vital signs, and for people to be referred to facilities, higher facilities if needed. But in the COVID-19 pandemic, it was immediately tailored to address the problems of COVID-19, telemetry, enabling doctors and healthcare workers to be amply protected and not to have need to work very close with patients. So thank you very much for that information. Now, I'd like to ask if Dr. Raymond is here. Okay, Dr. Raymond Sarmiento, because I have to ask everyone before we go to the social platform, media platforms, and the other sources and then the live audience. Dr. Raymond, you've been together for so long as far as your predecessor talking about e-health. So you're talking of Mhealth, no? But Mhealth is a component of e-health. So let us take this opportunity for you to say how important it is that our legislators appreciate the importance of e-health and Mhealth, so that we can actually accelerate all of the things that we're talking about, especially the roadmap that you mentioned.
Thank you, Executive Director Montoya. So in the ASEAN region, I think there are only 2 countries that have promulgated policies with regards to their digital health solutions. They are a little bit farther in terms of policies that have been made, because they have already mapped out a national AI for health roadmap in that sense for the next 30, 40 years. And I'm talking about Singapore and Malaysia. That's a little bit of unfortunate on our side, just because in the ASEAN region, the Philippines has been one of the spearheaders in terms of e-health program management, governance, and all the things that really will go into a strategic framework and how it would contribute to successful implementation of e-health. In terms of laying down and putting a spotlight on the importance of a national law, we have, I think, our closest attempt to have it be passed into a law, which is the Philippine National E-Health Services and Systems Act. And hopefully that will be prioritized by the current administration, so that we could have an encompassing law that would cover not just telehealth and telemedicine or mobile health or electronic medical records, but the whole gamut of digital health solutions in the country. A lot of the players, whether it's international or local, as well as those in the private and public sector, really would want some definitive guidance, especially in the regulatory sphere, and how they would be able to navigate that particular niche and be able to contribute value to the digital health sphere. So in terms of that and having a way to verify all of the digital health solutions that we have right now and what the government would recommend as sort of a seal of approval for those digital health solutions, those should be prioritized. Dr. Montoya.
Yeah, thank you very much, Dr. Viento. I fully agree with what you said, that we really need these legislative initiatives to accelerate our different programs. So now we can go to the live, to our audience now in PICC. If you have any questions or comments that you can share. If none, can we move to their social media platforms? Can I ask our team to look at scan our media platform and share with us their comments or questions? I think we have someone, yes, let's start with someone here in...
Good morning po. I have two questions po from Zoom. The first one is from Mr. Daniel Agustin to Dr. Dalisay. What are the risks associated with using Skivios, and what are the measures that should be taken to address these risks?
Okay, thank you very much for that question. When regards to risks, we were able to determine the toxicity of the active components of Kadyos against liver cells, kidney cells, and heart cells, and these are non-toxic components, which is very good. So at that point, we can say we can move on with the formulation. That's why we have the formulation that we did for the active component of Kadyos. So right now, we're waiting for the animal studies to see whether the sensitivity on the skin of the test animal, whether the formulation will have some effect on the skin of the animal. So that will take another 2 months until we receive that results. But definitely, the active component that we have identified is non-toxic at all. Thank you.
Thank you po, Dr. Dalisay. We have another po from Ms. Loida Perez from Zoom to Dr. D. Can you please give an outline of procedure in using CRISPR detection of SARS-CoV-2 or tuberculosis?
An outline in terms of how do you use it?
Procedure, yes.
Procedures. Medyo broad. Okay, so how do we do this? So for the current platform that we have, so we just basically get the enzyme, so it's either we generate it in-house or we could commercially buy the enzyme, so that will be the Cas enzyme. And then basically we just do in vitro transcription to be able to generate the guide RNAs, which would program the Cas enzyme to detect the targets that we want. So in this current procedure, we basically use a fluorescence output. So kunyari, if we test a sample, if the target is present, then it should emit a signal which we could detect using a fluorescence plate reader. So basically that's what we do. So in terms of procedure, so it's a very quick assay and then fluorescence as a readout. So as I mentioned a while ago, you could also use other readouts such as lateral flow strips. So adapt mo lang siya. So you use the reaction and then basically use a lateral flow strip as a dipstick, and then it's like an antigen test kit. Aakyat yung liquid pataas, and then if there is activity, you will be able to detect that there is activity.
Okay, thank you, Dr. D. We have the last question po from Zoom from Ms. Aurelius or Mr. Aurelius Perido Arais to Dr. Maramba. Can we now ask the doctor to include Lagundi in their prescription?
Yes, definitely. But actually, Lagundi is an over-the-counter medication. So you can buy it from the drugstore without a prescription. So if you think you have some, well, the indication is cough, of non-bacterial origin, asthma, and now we're hopefully might be registering it also for mild COVID, but you can definitely use it now for mild COVID if you have cough or other symptoms. So even over the counter, it can be used. Many of my physician friends and those who know of all these studies have definitely been prescribing it for their patients if they have mild COVID.
I think, Dr. Lasarte, it's also important to mention that it is for symptomatic
Yes,
relief.
for
So which
symptomatic
means,
relief of mild COVID.
The patient
yes.
still has to be managed based on the standard guidelines for COVID-19, but you can use this on top to relieve the symptoms and make them well earlier, right?
Yes po. So there are other medications to be given if you are high risk for severe COVID, even if you have mild symptoms. So really, if you have think you have COVID, you definitely have to go to a physician to see what treatments would be appropriate for you. No? So this is for symptomatic treatment of mild COVID.
Okay. So, okay, there's one more question from our audience. Yes, please. Or maybe we can lend our microphone.
Thank you po. Pasensya na.
Can you please come closer and get the microphone?
Ito na lang. Ito na lang.
Hello. Okay, we have a question po for Dr. Shirley Agrupis. Can you share with us the specific plants that you studied in this project?
Okay, Dr. Shirley.
Pardon, ma'am?
Okay, Dr. Shirley, can you please repeat the question?
Can you share with us the specific plants that you studied in this project?
Okay.
Specific plants, yes.
Yes. Specific plants po or plants?
Plants po.
Okay, I'm sorry, ma'am, but we are still, since we have gone through screening from 46 plants, then it was reduced to 11 plants, then finally to 5 plants. We are not to disclose any identity of the plants yet, for we have arrangement or agreement rather with the PCHRD not to disclose yet the plans. It is still all treated with confidentiality po. Pero naka-code po muna sila.
Oo. Kasi baka
yes.
Kasi baka marami nang kumain o uminom hindi pa tayo tapos sa ating pag-aaral. Pero I'd like to also ask ma'am, plans naman. What are your next steps? Siguro hindi plans, but plans.
Okay. Okay. As to the plans of the university, since we have in place facility for the preclinical trials, we have a hospital as well. The president plans to intensify, of course, LGU engagement because she's dreaming. Since part of her vision is to come up and have a model of parmasya ng barangay or bayan Of course, that will be accessible to Ilocano and Filipino people. So probably we could start with what we have because we are currently working with anti-inflammatory. And with this, since we are currently engaged with an agreement with the municipality of Adams, we can empower as well the community healthily and economically. So we are working with the IT community currently for the project.
So thank you very much. Wow, this is really a very interesting interaction with our speakers. We really learned a lot, and we really look forward to the future developments from some or all of these projects that were discussed today. I'd like to thank all of our distinguished speakers, high-powered speakers, really our audience, both here in the PICC and also in our social media platform. So thank you very much to all of you for your active participation and for listening. We hope that you will also be advocates of all of these technologies so that you can share with your kapamilya, kapatid, kamag-anaks, all of your friends, the importance of science and technology in promoting the health of everyone. So thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you to all our research presenters for wealth creation in health. All right, so that ends our Q&A portion. We would like to thank those who have raised questions on-site and via our social media channels. To all our speakers, maraming salamat po. We had a robust interaction with our participants.
Yes, and also thank Dr. Montoya for moderating this session. At this point, may we invite our speakers here on stage for a quick photo ops. And while we're waiting for our official photographers, may we remind our participants here in PICC to please fill out the which can be accessed through the QR codes on your respective tables. For our virtual audience, the evaluation form or QR code and link is pinned in the comment section for Facebook, YouTube, and Zoom.
Alam mo, nakakatuwa, no? Ang sarap marinig yung, kumbaga, mas nahimay pa yung kanilang ipinresent kaninang umaga. Mas malalim pa nating naunawaan yung each topic na i-share nila sa atin kanina.
Exactly. More than exciting finished projects, meron pang mga ongoing R&D projects tayong dapat abangan in the near future. Right, partner?
And of course, thank you so much, Doc Jaime Montoya. Napakagaling ng ating moderator for today's Q&A session. Thank you, sir. Parang mas maunawaan pa, di ba? Naunawaan talaga nating lahat kung ano-ano ba yung mga programs, mga projects na i-share sa ng ating mga experts.
Alright, we are done with our photo ops. Again, thank you very much to our research presenters for the research and development projects related to wealth creation in health. Grabe, partner. So much has been shown, pero patikim pa lang yan dahil meron pa tayong susunod na session this afternoon.
Kaya naman po, iniimbitahan po natin ang lahat na samahan pa rin tayo mamayang hapon dahil kaabang-abang yung mga presentation natin mamaya. Kaya naman po, we would like to invite everyone to join our second session this afternoon. We will be back by 1 p.m. at exactly 1 p.m.
Yes, and we'll see you later po via Zoom, Facebook, and YouTube. Please feel free po to share your comments and feedback in our 7th NRDC by using the hashtag 1DOST for you. Alright?
So once again, nire-remind po natin yung evaluation, no? Nabanggit na rin natin kanina, pero paulit-ulit po namin sasabihin, please po, i-fill up po natin yung evaluation form na isasubmit din. Online po ba ito? Ayan.
Yes.
Ayan. So ayan po, naka-flash sa ating screen.
Yes, for our PICC attendees, nasa tables po natin yung ating QR code. And for the online platform, pinned po sa comment section ng Facebook, YouTube, and Zoom. And partner, wag na natin patagalin
Oo,
pa, di ba?
oo. Medyo hapon na di ba? Alam kong gutom na ang lahat.
That's true, partner. Let's all share a festive meal as we celebrate this momentous event for research and development. We'll be right back. This is
The 7th National Research and Development Conference.